there a mosquito on my head? Oh, do you see that one? Oh my gosh. Do some night photography. Whoa. Oh, there's a woodchuck. Mosquito. I gotta spray when I get back. Wowzers.
You smell great.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Your new cologne is on point.
Thank you.
Nobody else found you. Nobody else found nobody else.
Today I'm coming to you from my mother's house here in Connecticut, and at the back of her property is a little creek that runs through the yard, and every year around early July the fireflies come out in full force and put on quite a spectacle. It's fun to watch. It's really impossible to video, but there is a couple techniques to create some pretty unique photographs of it, whether it be one exposure or a bunch of stacked exposures. I like to go out there whenever I can and capture these because it's really only for a few weeks here in early July, and then they disappear, and I definitely don't see them very often in the rest of the country, out west that is. I do see a ton of them in anything on the eastern region in the summer, but and I think you've heard about those fireflies down in Tennessee, I think it is, Smoky Mountains, the ones that are synchronized where they all come on and off at the same time. They get into a harmony and just continue to go at the same sequence, which has got to be surreal. Here in Connecticut, they don't do that. They just blink randomly, but there's so many of them that if you could take a long enough exposure, say 20 seconds or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, you're gonna get all of them to light up at one point in your picture. And I think that's where the magic happens. So I'm gonna take you down to the creek, show you what I use, show you how I set up, and then I'll take you back into the computer and show you what I do in Photoshop to create the best possible image that I'm hoping to create in my brain out of what I'm seeing out in the woods here. So the equipment I'm going to use tonight down at the brook to catch the fireflies is, I'm going to bring two lenses with me because I just don't know which one I want to use when I get down there. 24 to 70 or 70 to 200 zoom. Both of these are zooms, but I'm going to probably use the 70 to 200 because I like what happens when I use a longer lens. When you use a long lens and you zoom in, you're actually pulling in the background and bringing those fireflies that are out in the distance and kind of bringing them in closer. But the fireflies in the foreground don't go anywhere. They're still there. So you've pretty much just taken all of them from here to as far as I zoom and squish them all into one little plane, and I can see a lot more at full size. If I use the wide angle lens, I may get a better scene. It depends on how the trees look, if there's one falling across the water or something like that. I'll get a nice scene and I can have fireflies dotting throughout the picture. But with a wider lens like the 24 to 70, even at 35 millimeter, that's a wide scene, and I'm gonna get good action on the fireflies in my foreground if I happen to be right down in it. But the fireflies that are in the distance, say 50 feet away, 70 feet away, they're gonna look like little dots. They're almost gonna look like noise. I don't think they're even gonna look like bugs. So that's why I think I'm gonna end up with the 70-200, but I wanna bring both just to be sure. One of my favorite parts about being at my mom's house is all the berries that she always has growing. As a kid, I would always walk around the yard and just grab as many berries as I could and just kind of stuff my mouth full. She'd always know I was doing that though. My hands were always like super red. Oh, these used to be my favorite. Right here, gooseberries. You ever have these? They look like, I don't even know. What's nice about them, I think, that I like the most is that they were like Sour Patch Kids. Yep, just like I remember. They're mulberries, I think they are. I don't know. We call them. There's one right there. I eat them stem and all. I don't care. I used to sit here as a kid and just eat these by the bucket. So I'm going to do 2 different shots tonight. I'm going to try one upstream a little bit, and I'm going to go right down. I put a ladder down into the river, and I'm going to walk down into the river, go across. There's a landing that's a little sandbar. I'm going to set up the camera and tripod there and do kind of a wide angle shot upstream. I think that could be a neat photo. And then as a default, when I come back, I'm going to do the same shot that I've been shooting the last couple nights. I just think that if I do it with a 70 to 200 and I zoom in really close, I'll probably get a more unique photo than I have been able to in the last couple days. So one will be standing kind of right about here. I'm going to wait till it starts to get a little bit more dark. That's when the lightning bugs will start to come out, and then I will start shooting and see what scene looks best. I've got the Nikon 24-70. I've got the Z6, my tripod, bug spray, which you saw, and I changed to jeans because I don't trust the eco-friendly bug spray to do its job. I also have a flashlight when it starts getting darker. Okay, now that I have my scene dialed in, what I want to do is focus on something that's going to be the subject, and it'll probably be the first tree trunk laying across the riverbed, and then I'm going to turn the manual focus, or I'm going to turn the focus off to manual. I don't want the camera to try to refocus during any of this, so turning it to manual will allow it to just stay constant during this whole process. So as I'm down here, I'm setting the camera. Oh, there's one right. So part of what I'm looking for here is to get a good enough composition that I can enjoy the view, but also get it in a bunch of low-lying areas where I think the fireflies will probably come out. Fireflies tend to want to start out low as the sun has set and twilight begins. The fireflies start popping on all the low-lying brush, and then as time goes on through the night, they seem to rise up, so they end up going higher up in the sky, in the tops of the trees, and then I assume then they just stop. Hey, so it's the next day, and I wanted just to explain to you what I did last night. So it got too dark to keep filming, so I figured I would just finish my job, do the work, and then talk about it a little bit today. I had scene number 1 set up, shooting down into the river. And what I noticed quickly was that the fireflies weren't coming out. They were coming out on the outskirts, they were coming out on the underlying brush, but there's nothing in front of me. There was also nothing up in the sky above me, so I just felt like the image was not going to be strong enough. So I stopped, spun the camera around 180 degrees, and shot down the riverbed. That allowed me a much longer throw, and I was able to see a lot more lightning bugs. The image itself I liked a lot. It's a great image, but I guess it wasn't the wow image I was looking for. Then I brought the camera and tripod and everything back up the ladder to the top of the river. I shot across the river banks into the other side, which is like a forest in a way. And there the lightning bugs were amazing. They were all over the place. So what I did was I took a 20-second long exposure. Well, I took a few. I took a 5-second, a 10-second. I was playing with them, playing with different exposure settings, trying to find the right solution for how much lightness there was in the sky still and in the woods. I wanted a really dark image because I want just the lightning bugs to show up. So I underexposed. I find the balance point that was allowing me to underexpose to a point where I don't see a whole ton of the trees. I just see the blips of light that are the lightning bugs glow. And then what I did was I found that sweet spot to be 20 seconds long, ISO 1600 at f2.8 at about 70 millimeters. So I had my 70-200 on, but I wasn't really using it all the way and compressing it like I originally envisioned, but at 70 millimeters I was getting a good scene with a good mediocre compression from the background to the front. And then that was my secret formula for the images that I liked. So I did 40 exposures at 20 seconds long each. And then my goal is to bring that into Photoshop, layer them all on top of each other, and then stack them and show me all lightning bugs in that time frame. So I think it was about 13 minutes, 14 minutes worth of imagery open. I mean, it took me longer because I had to set the camera up and all that, but and so essentially what you're going to look at is I'm going to walk you through what I do with those 40 images and turn them into one amazing image. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is locate all the files. I loaded my memory card, put it on my hard drive, and I'm going through and selecting just the pictures I want to stack. So I'm using this program called Photo Mechanic. It helps me view all these images, and then I'm going to take the group that I want. I think there's 40, oh no, 29. I only selected 29. All right, so 29 of these photos are the ones I wanted the best, and I am opening them up in Adobe Bridge, Camera Raw, brightening them, applying the settings to all of them so they all look uniform. And what I'm looking for is a little bit of forest and a whole lot of glow from the lightning bugs. Because I shot these images in RAW, I need to convert them to JPEG so that I could work with them a little easier in Photoshop. I could work with them in RAW, but they're just too big. So I'm going to pick one picture though and also export it brighter. Put it in the same folder. This is going to be my base image. I'm brightening this one so I can see the trees, see the forest ground, and paint that back in and give it a better overall look. So it's not just glowing lightning bugs, it's glowing lightning bugs inside a forest. Now I'm going to go ahead and select all my JPEGs and take a look at them. And then I'm going to pick the image that I put in there that's brighter than the rest, and I'm going to make that my base image. So my base image is going to be the foundation that all the lightning bugs live on top of. So you can see how that base image was brighter. And these are all the images that I'm going to stack. So now once I have them all, I'm going to select all of them, open in Photoshop. Once they're all open in Photoshop, I'm going to run one of the Adobe scripts that's going to open each image and add it as a new image, all as separate layers. So here we add open files, okay, and then it's going to stack all the images as layers. So the next step is taking all those layers, arranging them. They're all the same except for that base layer, which is brighter. I'm going to select them all except for one layer. And then I'm going to go up to the blend mode and I'm going to convert it to lighten. Wow, there it is. That looks so cool. So this is all of the lightest parts of the images showing through, which is the lightning bugs. Those are the lightest part of the images. So all the light parts get to blend together and everything else stays constant. It's just magic. I love it. That's so cool. From here, I'm going to flatten the image and save it as its own JPEG, and I'm going to work from this forward. Now, there's one other thing I want to do. To me, it's a little bit dark. It doesn't look super foresty, so I'm going to go back to the raw images. I'm going to pick one of the exposures, and I'm going to brighten it up quite a bit and add that to the mix. And I'm going to paint in the areas that I wanted to see brighter, if that makes sense. So I've selected my base image and I'm going to go ahead in Camera Raw and brighten up the exposure. And don't worry about the noise, I'll run some noise reduction on it anyway. But see how I could see the tree trunks, I could see the ground, I could see leaves. I'm going to use this base image and use it selectively to paint back in some detail in the forest. So I stack these two images on top of each other. I hide the top layer and then reveal it selectively in the areas that I want to show some more brightness. So here's that brighter layer on top. Run a mask on it. I did change the blend mode to lighten. Run a mask on it, hide it. And now I'm just going to paint into the core section of the image a little bit more brightness, if that makes sense. So see, I'm brightening it in here. I don't mind the edges being dark. It is a night shot. And when I'm done, I think that's about it. That's my shot. I hope you like this. If you want me to do more of these, let me know. Hit subscribe, send me comments, blah, blah.